All right, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started here in just a few seconds. We got a lot of people showing up. We want to give everyone just a little bit more time to jump in. But while we're waiting today, I think we probably got people from all over the world joining us. So if you want to drop in the chat where you're joining us from this morning, Ed and I can polish up our geographic skills and figure out where you're from. So go ahead and drop that in the chat while we're waiting for a few more folks to join us here. We got Houston, we got Colorado, we've got London, Detroit, Kent, Athens, that could be Greece, that could be Georgia here in the States. I don't know. But yeah, we're excited everybody's here. Alan from Chicago, Illinois. That's great. That's my backyard. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We got a half hour this morning. Appreciate everybody joining us. This is our very first Product Spotlight webinar. I'm Paul. If we haven't met before, I'm Pinpoint's head of customer success here in the US. And I'm joined today by Ed, who is our product delivery manager. So Ed will do most of the talking this morning, but I'll set the scene here and talk through how this morning's going to look. So each month we'll host one of these sessions to walk you through what's new here at Pinpoint, share a few tips on how to get the most value from the product, and sometimes we'll even give you a sneak peek of what's to come in Pinpoint. And we're going to do a little bit of that today, not just an occasional thing, but we'll do it this week as well. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any point, just like you're doing today. So I'll take note of all of the questions. We got someone from Southern Indiana. That's where I'm from. Anyway, drop your questions in the chat. We will answer those all at the end. So don't be afraid to do that, but we will hold them till the very end. And we'll do a little Q&A when we wrap up here. So let's go ahead and dive in. Ed is going to drive most of this. So I'm going to turn it over to him to walk us through the new features.
Lovely. Thanks, Paul. And hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. For this release, we've been focusing on building some improvements to our onboarding system, including a new dashboard, to help increase the clarity on work that needs to be done across candidates and stages. We also have a couple of small but mighty updates for you in other areas of the platform that will be incredibly useful to you, those of you who are operating Pinpoint each day. So I'm going to share my screen with you all and we will get going. First up, when you land in Pinpoint, you'll have seen our regular recruitment side dashboard many times before, I'm sure. In my case, I've got a config and show me latest jobs and any approvals I need to do. And you'll have seen this lots of times over. But what we've never had before is an onboarding dashboard for our onboarding system, sorry. And so if I go over to our onboarding system now, rather than the list of candidates, the first thing you're actually going to see is our new dashboard. And the idea of the dashboard is to give clearer visibility of what needs attention across candidates and stages. So this is the place where I want to come in and see what work I need to do and how things are going across our onboarding process. And I can see here that I've got things around candidates that haven't started a process yet. I can see a view of stages that are open and possibly ones that might need my attention. So for example, I've got some candidates that need a review or some data that needs reviewing. And I've got some things that are overdue, which are things that I need to go and action straight away. So it helps me get clarity straight away on the things I need to do when I come into the platform. Right now, this is filtered by everybody who has access to the system, but also I can look at the things that are relevant just to me as the owner of certain candidates. And perhaps if I was a team member away like Bill here, I could go and filter this down to Bill's candidates so I could see the things that Bill needed to do that I now need to take over, for example. But first of all, we've got some candidates that are not currently assigned to a process. And with all the stats here that you can see, you can click through these to actually take action further. So I've got some candidates here that are not yet assigned to a process. So these are newly hired candidates, people that we have hired, but we haven't actually done anything with them just yet. And the process here would be to assign them to an onboarding process of some kind. Now, I can do these one at a time, but we've also added bulk actions into this system as well. So I can select some of or all of those candidates in the view here, and then I can assign them en masse to a process. If they were already in process, I could also edit their start dates. We know that some people often need to push start dates back or move things around. And so we can edit the start dates there. We can also now communicate with the candidates from this view as well, either by email or SMS. So straight away, I can go seeing what I need to do with those candidates. If I go back to the dashboard once more, I can see, as I say, that I've got at least some or one candidate that needs some review. So that is data that's come back into the system that is requiring review. So I can click through for the needs review. And this is going to take us through to a slightly new view we have here called the Open Stages view. And this is going to help me find all the work that I actually need to do grouped by the actual stage the candidate's in and what needs to happen. So I can see here that I've got a candidate that's in the first step stage of one of our onboarding processes, and they currently I need to review that data, so it's flagged as needing review. And I can do it from here. So I can choose the first steps stage here. I can choose to review that stage. And what I'm looking for here is the data the candidate has given us as part of their first stage. Some very straightforward data here. That all looks fine to me. So I can now approve those responses. And in doing so, I've now moved the candidate on in the process, and the process will now continue if the review was holding things back from continuing any further. Obviously, that was a very basic one, but you might have very sensitive data you need to have happen first. You may have candidates signing an NDA and need to wait for that to be completed and reviewed before they can continue in the rest of the process. So that now moves the process on. And if I go back once more, I mentioned that we also have some candidates that are currently overdue or something, or actions that are overdue. And if I click on this, I can also go back to the same view again. But this time it's going to be showing me anything that's overdue. And in this case, I've got some candidates that need to send me back a contract or need to sign their contract and send it and return it to me. One is currently doing it, but two haven't even started it yet. My actions from here are probably to go and nudge those candidates, to email them or to give them a phone to remind them that they have work they need to do to help their onboarding progress further. So the dashboard really then designed to help you see an overview of what's happening and where, but also to go and take action and move things forward in the process as well. So that's the dashboard and the open stages view. We also have a refinement to our candidate view, which is a view you'll have seen before. This one will be familiar. I say this has existed in onboarding for quite a while. What we've done though is change this to make it a more detailed view, and it's a toggle you can select to have a look at the details. Now, this view contains some more information about stage names, so you can actually see where candidates are. If you run multiple processes, this view can be slightly harder to see who's in which process and what needs to happen in any one stage. In the detailed view, we can actually get the name of each step that's happening and what needs to happen in that particular step as well. So it makes it easier to see what's happening across the range of candidates. And it's also going to highlight the things we saw before to me. So the fact we have candidates that have got overdue are now very heavily marked, so you can see those in the system, and also candidates that require first steps to be taken. If I slide over, we also now have two new columns in here. We have the number of days a candidate has been in process, and we also have their start date. And both of these are now sortable, and this table can be sorted. So I can actually go and find the candidates who are starting soonest and go and triage them first, perhaps because they can be arriving imminently or have almost just arrived and are very late on things. And let's see, I can move this table to make it work for me. So that's the candidate view as well. Next up, we have onboarding reporting, and we haven't had a reporting ability on specifically onboarding data in our report builder before. But for those of you who have our advanced reporting add-on, in the report builder now, we have a new type of report and new reporting fields available to do with onboarding specifically. So I can choose to go and build a new report. We have an onboarding candidates base report, and if I choose that report first, I can open that, and it's going to create me a report which has got lots of the information around the candidates themselves, but also now details of onboarding as well. So things like their onboarding start date, the date they were assigned to process, and that the onboarding was complete, and so on. And as with all things in our report builder, these are all very customizable, so I can come in here and add more fields. We've also launched a new picker for the list here as well. So rather than having to go and scroll through a list of every single thing we know, a data point we have on a candidate, they're now grouped by certain things. So I can go and look at onboarding details specifically, and now pick out the things I want to include in my onboarding reporting here, for example. So a big update to the reporting system to include all of our onboarding data as well. The last column here is called onboarding compliance date. And this is a new concept in Pinpoint and also something new for the system. We have built in a way to measure something we call time to compliance. And this came out of requests from some compliance-led industries that we work with, particularly early years education, and those in healthcare have a requirement for everything they do to be very auditable, and compliance is a heavy piece of work they need to do. We wanted to make it possible to track how long that compliance is taking so that people can see where the bottlenecks are in process, to make sure that we can help them remove those bottlenecks and see where efficiencies could be made in amongst the processes. And so to set that up and make that reportable, you need to define in any given process which stage you consider the point at which a candidate is compliant. So I've got a process open here. This is one that's for the manufacturing division of this company. And in the process settings, there's now a new setting called compliance stage. And in lots of cases, it may well be the very last stage of the process, but you can actually pick which stage in this process you think is the point at which the candidate is compliant. That might be relevant if you run processes after people have started at the company. Nice to have perhaps like a candidate experience survey or a hiring manager survey, which you run through onboarding. Those don't really help with the compliance part, but we want to actually be able to choose that. The last stage perhaps we actually want to look at is the payroll stage, when actions have been taken by payroll to add someone to the system. If that's the point at which we consider compliance is reached, we can mark that as such, and then the compliance date becomes that. So that is the time to compliance as well. We have finally got sensitive questions in onboarding. So if you've used our question system before in Pinpoint in your application forms, it's possible to mark a question as sensitive. And if a question is sensitive, only those people given a very specific permission in Pinpoint are allowed to see the data collected from a candidate at that moment. So that's always existed in the recruitment side. We've now added that to the onboarding system too. For example, in a very simple process here for checking social security details, we are going to show the candidate a form of some kind. And we're going to ask for 3 details. We've got full legal name, current address, and social security number. Now, the 2 details here and here, the current address and legal name, aren't particularly sensitive to those who'll be working with the onboarding system and my team. But the social security number is a very personal, private piece of data. We don't want that being shown to anybody who shouldn't be seeing that. And so those questions are set up to make sure that one is sensitive, the last one's sensitive. So if I edit this template, just to show you what that looks like, here's the question for full legal name, marked as not sensitive. Same with the current address. And at the bottom here, this question we've set up is marked as sensitive. The way to give people access to that data, or be able to view that data, is through our role system and permission system. So if we're in user management here, I can go and find the access group I think should have access to those details eventually. We should be able to see them at any time. And in this case, our administrators group. So I can come into our administrators group, choose permissions, scroll down until I find the sensitive answer permission. And this permission, if it was ticked here, would allow the person who this role is, or this group of people, to view the sensitive details in any question that's been marked as sensitive. The data is stored as sensitive. It's not shown to anybody it shouldn't be. But when you push candidates out into perhaps HRIS system or export them after the fact, after onboarding, the data will be transported. But no one inside Pinpoint gets to see it if they don't have that role assigned to them. So that's the main updates to onboarding that we've done. Plenty to digest there. There's a couple more small but mighty things I mentioned before, and they are, this time around, we have approval reminders. So if you've used our sign-off workflow system before, you have to then have, I'm sure, people in the company who are not always great at going and doing the sign-off they need to do for the requisition or the job or the offer that's being made, and it can hold the process up massively. There has always been a way to manually get the people who are holding the process up to go and give them a little reminder email to get them to actually do the job they need to do. But we've now managed to make that automated as well. And so it's a small change, but in our sign-off workflows templates page here, we have a settings menu. And in here, there's now a section for automatic reminders. And so if I tick that on, I can say that after a day or after a few days or some number of days, send a reminder email to the people who are currently have not signed, who are we're still awaiting the signature on. So a small but useful change there, helping to make things a bit more efficient. And then our last small but mighty is interview SMS configuration. So we have always had the ability to SMS candidates once they have been confirmed for an interview, to remind them to attend the interview. And the options were some along the lines of 1 hour before the interview, a day before the interview. So those options have existed for a while, but they've never been templatable before. And so every time you configured an interview in Pinpoint, you'd have to go and set those up if you wanted to do that as part of the interview configuration process. What we've done now is defaulted those into the interview templates. And so if I'm in a templates area of Pinpoint here, I can see I've got 2 templates, and let's take our head office one as the example. There's the usual details about the interview itself, but we now have a section here called SMS reminders, where you can configure that every time this template interview is used, these are the SMS preferences I want. So I want to send a confirmation as soon as the interview has been confirmed by the candidate. And then also I want to remind them perhaps 1 hour before and 1 day before the interview actually starts. So I can update our interview template. And that now is working for any interview that's using the interview template for our head office there. If we're actually in the system and we're looking at an interview stage, so this is an interview stage in a job, I can also change the options here to and override those options if we think for this particular job it's following a template, but we might want to change those slightly. If I can configure the interview, I can come down to the SMS options area, and I can either follow the template itself or I can apply custom settings. So the same thing you used to be able to do before, where on each interview I can say whether I do or don't want these particular SMS options. So that is all the things that we have released this month that are now live in the platform that you're welcome to go ahead and start using if you have access to them. As we mentioned, we always like to give a little bit of a sneak peek if we can of things that are coming up in the platform too. So before we move on to Q&A, we want to give you a sneak peek of a brand new feature that's coming soon, which is going to be reference checks in Pinpoint. We've built this to make it easier for you to request, track and manage references all in one place without ever really needing to leave the ATS. So to give you a quick view of what that's going to look like when it finally comes to the platform. So I have a candidate's profile here, and this candidate is in process with us and is at the offer stage of a job. But I now want to do some reference checking and make sure they can provide me references, and I can go and check the references. So I can choose to reference check this candidate. And as with lots of things in Pinpoint, you can template these. And so I have a standard set I want to use for our head office here, for example. And I want to get 2 records of employment history, and I also want to check an academic reference for these people, for this person as well. So I can go ahead and set that up. Once those are sent out, what it's going to do is going to message the candidate, and it's going to send them an email and say, I'd like you to provide me some reference details, please. The candidate will be directed into a portal that will be in your company branding, and they can come in here and provide the details of those references and as necessary. Once they've done that back in Pinpoint again, we start to get statuses across these references. And so now I can see that some referee details have been provided. I can go and look at those details. and see what's been said. And if I'm happy they're okay, I can then send that on to the referee. And so it's going to take those details, it's going to create all the email that needs to go to the referee, and they're going to be given a similar looking form to fill in via the email, which has the details of the candidate in, and then you can configure what you'd like to see and ask for the referees about the candidate. So here, for example, we have one for academic references where I'm asking about how the grades the candidate achieved. These are text answers, but also you can ask them to upload documents, and you can ask them to fill in, pick from multiple choice questions or dates. So there's lots of options for what you can give people. Once that's done and the reference is returned, once again, people will be notified in the Pinpoint notification system. I can come back, review the details that have been given, see the response from the referee, see any attachments that were brought in or any comments. And as we work heavily with compliance-based industries and all our things are auditable, we have an audit history of what's happened with this candidate and when things have happened. And so I can see a good view of what's happening in references, and the system is largely automated, so we can make that process very smooth. But also we have a way to mark references that need flagging, so my team can review them and find any ones that need further review by our team members. And finally, I've shown you all of that in the applicant tracking system side, so in the recruitment side of our platform. All of this will also be available in the onboarding system too. And so we have reference check actions as a stage type. And so you can do reference checking, whether you want to start the process in the applicant tracking side or whether you want to start in the onboarding side. We have options for all of those things. So the benefits of these then, if I scroll to my next slide, the system will have ready to use branded templates. You'll be able to get started quickly with pre-built templates for academic, employment, and character references. And also you can build fully customizable ones as well. They're all customizable. They're all consistent with your employer brand. We have automated reminders. So you can set reminders to go out automatically to referees so that they respond sooner without having to chase them manually, which does obviously get a huge time saving. And we have full audit history so that you can track the status of every reference request and reminder and do the submitted referrals all directly from within the candidate's profile. We do have a waitlist open for this. So if you'd like to be one of the first customers in Pinpoint to get access to it and get your first month of reference checks for free as well, you can hit the button on the screen that's going to be coming up in just a second, or you can visit pinpointhq.com/waitlist, or you can reach out to your customer success manager and they will add you to that list as well. Cool. So that is it for me. Back over to you, Paul.
Great. Thanks, Ed. That was great. Wonderful. We are just about at time. So I do want to wrap this up. A couple of things. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Ed, for walking us through all of this great information. And honestly, we'd love your feedback on these Spotlight webinars. So we're going to try to do these once a month. So we want to make them as useful as possible to our customer base. So if you have thoughts on what worked well, what you'd like to see more of, by all means, get in touch with us, get in touch with your CSM, and give them as much feedback as you can so that we can make these a really valuable 30 minutes that you come to every single month. We're excited for that. So thanks again, everyone, for their time, and we'll see you at next month's webinar, just about this time next month. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you all soon.